people so twisted in fate could ever look at one another and feel any hate. Only together we're great, so don't take the bait. Every time they sell the narrative, rejected, it's fake. As when people under God, a nation was born. Like two peas in a pod to one another we're drawn. So I don't care what your position is on judicial reform, what country you're from, what country you're from, the type of keeper that's on. Gotta love one another, no matter what the difference is. How could we define each other solely by our differences? If we dig deep down inside, you can never deny it. That's why I'll always care for you, so I don't buy it. Nah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Don't buy it. How we managed to survive to most remains a mystery. How the Jewish people thrived, it just breaks the laws of history. We overcame the obstacles no matter the cost, through hundreds of pogroms and everything that we lost. And after all this time we made it back to our land. So if we want to live together, gotta understand that no one ever said we always have to agree, but every Jew should treat another Jew with decency. So even if we disagree to an impossible degree, we still a family, we gotta live in harmony. Cause if we live with unity and together make a plea, gotta listen carefully and erase every decree. And even though I know it could be difficult to see, it's the only thing we gotta do for God to set us free. This is our choice, accept it or fight it, but I choose to live in peace with you, so I don't buy it. Nah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Don't buy it. Got to release all the hate. Only together we'll be great. The only way we can replace it in our mind is to feel love all the time. We gotta realize that deep within our soul we are together, not alone. And only then will God sit on his throne. Abba, please come home. Release all the hate. Only together we'll be great. The only way we can replace it in our mind is to feel love all the time. We gotta realize that deep within our soul we are together, not alone. And only then will God sit on his throne. Abba, please come home. When we're united we're ready, but then in fighting gets heavy, the missiles fall, cause we keep on forgetting. So we swipes through the menu, prepare for resetting. Sometimes we need to be restored to the factory settings. Some serve, some learn, to Hashem we earn. Together's our might, united we fight. We got different points of view, but it's time for an epiphany. Instead of going at each other, let's replace anger with sympathy. We all in this together, you can't ever deny it. One nation under God, we should never divide it. So when they preach about hate and want you to try it, I got one piece of advice for you: don't buy it.
It's love, sweet love, it's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. No, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. All this and more, if you wanna know. The world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
It's easy if you try.
No hell below us,
Above us only sky. Oh, yeah.
imagine all the people
Living for today.
yeah. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do.
Nothing to kill or die for.
And no religion too.
Oh, yeah. Imagine all the people living life in peace.
You may say I'm a dreamer,
Yeah, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us. Oh yeah, and the world will be as one.
imagine no possessions.
I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger.
A brotherhood of men.
Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. Be as one.
Imagine all of the people
Sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, oh yeah, but I'm not the only one. Not the only one. I hope someday you join us, yeah, and the world will live as one.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeffrey Giesener from the One Revolution. Stop Anti-Jewish Hate. Welcome to our program today with our guests and co-presenters, Sheryl Kamen and Yifat Cohen, along with special guests, presenters Leo Spiegler and Seth Breitman. I'm Jeffrey Giesener, founder of the Jewish Holocaust Remembrance 10-7 group and the One Revolution. I want to introduce you first to our tech check. If you're on Zoom and you get knocked off, please just re-admit on the original link and I'll admit you throughout the program. Today will be our session presenters first, and then questions and answers will be done jointly at the end of the program. Sheryl and Yifat will be managing our questions and answers program. But first, I want to offer some reflection. Perhaps you'll pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel, our brave soldiers who are fighting, and also for the innocents in Gaza and those in need for healing from all over the world.
I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming. And the blood will dry underneath my nails, and the wind will rise up to fill my sails. See, you can't doubt and you can hate, but I know no matter what it takes, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they're fighting for my sake. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming.
So far away from where I belong, but it's always darkest before the dawn. And you can't doubt, and you can't hate, but I know no matter what it takes, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits. They are fighting for my sakes. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they're fighting for my sake.
I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home.
And thank you. And I'm going to turn the program over to Sheryl. Sheryl and Yifat, take it away.
Okay,
Go ahead, Sheryl.
that's okay. That's okay. We understand what's going on, Jeffrey. Can you all hear me? I'm guessing, yeah? Okay. Well, hi everyone. I think at this point we know each other pretty well, but you're going to have to suffer through another bio and introduction. So those who know it, you can just take a little nap. I'm Rabbi Dr. Sheryl K. I'm a retired psychotherapist and neurotherapist specializing in clinical and applied neuroscience. After doing work in both publicly funded and private clinics, I went into private practice. Ultimately, I own two practices, one primarily psychotherapy and one practice devoted to applied neuroscience. That actually matters in this because there's a lot of work in neuroscience that is actually pointed at what we're doing right here. Ultimately, I worked with a diversity of clients, including many individuals and families dealing with trauma like we're dealing with here. I was asked to teach, and so I did eventually teach courses in doctoral neurobiology, psychopharmacology, differential diagnosis, diagnostic competence, and a short series called The Neurobiology of Addiction. In my personal life, as my Jewish journey was advancing, I was increasingly drawn to rabbinical studies and was encouraged by many to take it on. I finally went to seminary and received my smicha. I led a small congregation / chavra for about 7 years, and now I continue to work with individuals, lead Torah studies, do some basic Hebrew and Judaism teaching, and lead services when requested. I am honored to be here with you to discover new methods of facing down anti-Semitism, even as the world is on fire. Before I introduce our esteemed guests, I want to remind you that there will be plenty of time at the end for questions, and even in the middle for questions and discussion. And during the presentation, please put questions you have in the chat, and Yifat and I will capture them. And if our presenters want questions in the middle, go ahead and just throw them in there. Today, it's my privilege to introduce my friends Leo Spiegler and Seth Breitman, who have both had my admiration for years. Some of you met Leo the last time we were together via some of Leo and Seth's Jew Function videos. They've been working together in this area for many years now. By day, Leo and Seth are businessmen. Leo is a branding consultant and a digital content creator. And Seth, while also in business in New Jersey, is the author of Antidote to Antisemitism. They sound like superheroes because they are. They're superheroes. By day, they're one. At night, they're superheroes. Together, Leo and Seth host the Jew Function podcast with thousands of viewers and listeners on all major platforms. They have studied and explored the problem of Jew hatred by investigating our shared Jewish history, studying the words of our sages, and looking at the issue through the lens of network science and big data. They study Jewish tradition and the teachings of our sages through a more Kabbalistic lens. Seth is also a senior instructor in his organization, teaching a method of ancient wisdom as taught by sages like the Baal Shem Tov, Rav Kook, Rabbi Akiva, and so on. I think they're both actually, if I'm not mistaken, instructors. So they're both senior instructors. We're happy to have them both. And though I can honestly say none of us knows exactly what they'll be talking about today, other than a method of overcoming anti-Semitism, we're anxious to hear what they have to say. So without further ado, I turn it over to you, Seth and Leo.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Jeff, for having us. And also
Thank you.
Yifat for helping out here. We're very privileged to be here. And how could it be that two guys without capes or crowns or some badges or something can show up with maybe something you haven't heard before? But we think that you will hear some things today that are new. At least you'll hear. Actually, hopefully it should all sound very, very familiar, but maybe you didn't realize what was in your hand. So we're hoping that everybody will come out of here optimistic, if it's possible to say that such a thing can be. Leo, who was it that everybody was mourning over the Second Temple, and he was smiling, and they said, "Why are you smiling?" And he said,
Rabbi
"Because."
Akiva. Yeah, Rabbi
He said,
Akiva.
if that prophecy came true, then the next one will also come true.
True.
So.
I have a question.
By the way, I'm in New Jersey now, and Leo is in Petach Tikva in Israel.
Exactly. I have a quick question to Jeffrey, our host. Can you maybe spotlight both of us so we're one next to each other? Like you can spotlight one and then add the other. This way, they can see both of us. I think that would be great.
Jeffrey,
and
you're
so-
muted.
Sorry?
Leo. Jeffrey's trying to talk, but he's muted. Sorry.
Yes.
Or you're up and down, so you're on top of each other, not side by side.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't see it. Okay. Because I'm only seeing the.
If everybody could put it on speaker, that would be easier. Right now I see gallery. I see everybody. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody else does.
No, that's good. Okay. So again, if you're seeing us the right way, that's fine. I trust you. So Yes, as Seth said, we'll tell you a bit more about ourselves. I think our personal stories are as important to this bigger story as that story itself. And as Seth said, we hope to really just awaken some questions because we don't question what's happening and why, then there's no way to get to any any new answers, or at least the hope of a new answer. If we're certain that what we're doing is working, and it's not working, then we're madmen. And we hope that we're a bit more rational than that, to at least consider things that, as Seth said, will feel familiar. Maybe not everything. Maybe something will make you. Maybe some things will make you sort of wanna shout back at us. Then that's okay. But I think if it brings you to action, internal, even external, that's great. Indifference is the worst thing. So I want to start with a clip, and we'll take it from there. I can just share it, right, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Leo, before you do, can you give just a quick couple lines about who we are, how we came up with what we're what we're doing together?
Yeah, we will, but let's use the
Okay.
clip. It's good for shock value, and then we can when everybody's shocked, then we can. I mean, again, you may have seen it. I don't know what Sheryl shared with you last time. So if you have seen, some of you have seen it, don't spoil it for the rest of you. Let me play it. Second. Okay.
Check this out. Jews, the Jews. See what happened here? In your gut, something, you reacted, right? The idea, even the word, is something no one is indifferent to. But why? What's the story here? You think that after 4,000 years of recorded history, we'd have figured out this strange, almost universal hatred of the Jews, but we haven't. You know what? We're going to have to start to figure it out. We're going to have to try. The way the world's connected now, everything affects everyone. There's nowhere to hide. And that little problem isn't so little anymore, is it? That innate deadly hostility is exploding around the globe. And if we don't figure it out, it'll trigger a violent self-defense reaction, which is going to destabilize the entire planet, harming everyone in the process. You know, that whole never again thing. So let's stop pretending and fantasizing. Let's figure it out. Let's take the emotion out of it. Look at things scientifically, empirically. There are facts. The details of any experiment that's been going on for as long as this one has are considered as facts. So let's consider them. So what exactly is the Jewish problem? Is it genocide, their right to self-defense, envy, bigotry, tribalism? No. The problem is that no one, and I mean no one, including the Jews, know what Jews are and what their role is in the world, or that they even have one. Wait, what do you mean? How can the oldest surviving grouping of humans in the history of the planet not know who they are? I mean, they're a race, right? Because if your mom's a Jew, you're a Jew. But actually, there were times in history where if your father was Jewish, you were also Jewish. And clearly, all you have to do is take one look at Jews and see they're a hodgepodge of races. That's because they're religion, right? Wrong. The majority who identify as Jews are secular, and the ones you're probably most aware of are strongly anti-religious. Fine, they're a state, like the US, or a legal entity like Canada. But more Jews live outside of Israel than inside Israel. So what are those Jews? You see the problem? Every definition is a contradiction. You know, they're pacifists and they're warmongers. They're capitalist exploiters and they're revolutionary communists. They only keep to themselves, and yet they threaten racial purity through intermarriage. They killed Christ and they invented Christianity. They're the chosen people mentality, and they have this inferiority complex. Basically, we have an undefined, identity-conflicted human grouping making up less than 0.02% of the world's population, who somehow manages to draw to itself a disproportionate amount of attention and influence, enough to impact the entire human network and all of its systems, for better and for worse. And we don't really know who they are. That's what makes us so suspicious, right? Talking about that makes us squeamish. But look, if we're going to figure it out, we have to stop saying it's not true. It is true. But why? How come? What for? Where the
right.
Every time I
So
see it, it's amazing. By the way, what year did you make that?
yeah, I was about to ask the people here if they want to take a guess. What year was that made?
Put it in the chat.
Oh,
Well, you were definitely skinnier.
Put your
So
put your answer. Put your answers, people, in the
yeah. I
chat.
had I wasn't as white in the beard, but let's give people another minute. This was part of a it's part of a 15-16 minute long clip. You could see it online through our through our website and everything. It's called The World of Jews and the Science of Human Survival. And by the way, there's also a great online learning experience. You can access it through our website. We'll put all the information in the end. Some people are saying 20 years ago. Well, that's brave. Iva saying 2010, Gabby saying 2016, Cheryl maybe 15 years ago. I guess the others are still debating. Well, it was made in 2014, actually. It was made in 2014, so about a decade ago. And it just it's the what we're trying to say, and this is what made Seth and I think even approach this whole topic, because we could have been just like every other Jew, just living our lives. I happen to live in New York. I lived in New York for 22 years. Seth was born in the U.S. We could have met or not met, and we could just be regular people. But the thing is that both of us noticed that this hatred of the Jew is something perennial. It doesn't go away. It's there. It's always in the background, and it defies all kinds of rational explanation. And even throughout history, you can sort of talk about it. You can clothe it in different, right, garments. Oh, there's the religious card, and then there's the racial card, and there's the political card. There's always something you can say about it. But the fact is that it's there, and the Jews as a people are also not exactly obeying the typical statistics of a small group of people over thousands of years. Either we should have either disappeared completely, or maybe grew to 500 million, even with all the pogroms and everything. A guest of ours challenged us that we got killed too many times, so that's how they kept our population in check. But 2,000, 3,000 years, that's a long time. So it made us ask those questions, and we realized that if we want to get answers, we have to ask tough questions of ourselves, but also later on of our guests, Jews and non-Jews. Try to understand it, because for years in the U.S., you couldn't walk around and talk about those things openly. You get like, shh, don't say that. Don't say that there's an issue with don't give them ideas, right? And that was the problem. I think we didn't want we were content with the answers that we got, we collectively, and so we just kept going, living our lives, not noticing that all around us the stuff has been stirring up. I wonder, Seth, what made you kind of remind me, because I don't remember.
There's two. There's I think there's two level. But by the way, like what Leo just said, maybe 4 years ago, when I wrote this book about this, I was going around asking synagogue, like presenting it, and I was told time and time again, we don't have a problem with anti-Semitism. This is not a good fit for our community. Be quiet. But I think there's two kind of levels of shock around this topic. The first level of shock is when you Google Jewish expulsions throughout history, and you have to keep scrolling to see the list of how many hundred places, how many hundred countries, starting with A and going to, I don't know if there's a country with Z, but going down just endless number of countries that expelled the Jews from them. We all know the big ones, all the big empires. I think that's the first level of shock, is just to see that. And then I remember the first time I saw that in 2000, early internet days. It was the first time I saw that list. And at that time, as a secular Jew who grew up in suburbia, going to Hebrew school, once or twice a week, the way that I understood the world was we were just trying to live our lives, and somebody didn't like us and tried to kill us. And then we went somewhere else, and we were just trying to live our lives, and someone didn't like us. Like this kind of poor me, poor us story, or how unjust it is. So the first shock was this shock of, wow, didn't realize that this happened. I had heard about the Holocaust, I'd heard about the Inquisition, but I didn't realize that we were kicked out of hundreds of countries. That was the first degree of shock. I think the second degree of shock, when you become a serious student and you're willing to be challenged, and you look at all of these situations and you look at our texts, you see that these things, it's not and we have to make a separation here, because a lot of times people throw us into the wrong category. Oh, you're a self-hating Jew or something like that. God forbid. Right? It's not the situation where, God forbid, a woman is, being in an abusive relationship, and then she keeps looking at herself. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong? No, that's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is that if we look at, for example, the destruction of the Second Temple, there was a civil war going on between Jews. Jews were terrorizing each other, right? Like everybody has heard about Hanukkah, right? I grew up. The Greeks tried to kill us. We won. Let's celebrate. Okay. But the story of Hanukkah was really about Hellenized, it was the Maccabees fighting against Hellenized Jews. The Greeks became an afterthought. It was the Greek culture that had infiltrated the Hellenized Jews. And this is not like a Leo and Seth saying something. This is all clearly documented. Actually, when you read the stories again and you go back, you see that it was Jews fighting Jews. And you could find this again and again, and what it turns out. Well, Leo, let me just put that on the table there without opening it up like way too wide yet. But these were the first two shocks for me. The first shock was, wow, this is real. This has really been happening through all these hundreds and thousands of years. And the second shock was, oh, this is not just people picking on us wherever we go, but something happens with us, and this violent reaction happens from the system where we are. And that possibly, I started to ask, maybe the solution isn't just about legislating against anti-Semites. Maybe the Jews have a real mission in the world. Like when everybody here, Lee, I'll end with this part for now. When we think about what a good life would be, the Jewish ideal is nation won't lift sword against nation, that my house will be a house of prayer for everyone. The Jewish ideal is an ideal of sublime unity and peace for all. When we think of a good life, what do we think of, right? Like, oh, my kids will be good, my grandkids will be good, I'll have enough money in the bank. Like, we aren't, as Jews, our mission is to bring about this quote unquote messianic age. Not that some guy is going to come on a horse and fix everything. That's not what I'm talking about.
It's a
But
donkey.
a donkey, sorry. But our goal is to really to bring peace to the entire world, to make the whole world into one family. That's the goal of the Jews, to be a light unto the nations, right? We all heard that over and over again, to be a light unto the nations. So,
But now, may I? Yeah.
please.
But now the question comes, and that is really the question that we started asking ourselves. Okay, what does it mean to be a light unto the nations? Aren't we already a great light? We're a great source of light. We've done so much. When you talk to a Jewish person, many of our guests, when you ask them, "Oh, what does it mean to be Jewish?" Almost always the first answer is like, "Oh, I'm so proud of Jewish people," and it's like, Yeah, what
Nobel
have you?
Prizes, invented the cell phone,
Exactly,
the
Albert Einstein and this and Jonas Salk and
Hollywood, and
everybody. We all know the list, right? You know how many we are in the world versus how many Nobel Prize winners we have. We know that story. It's been running on Facebook. Everybody's been right sharing that list. But so the question is, wait, if that's the story, why aren't we being celebrated, lauded, embraced? What's happening? And how come when one Jewish person does something terrible, as you know, people from other groups do terrible things, why when a Jew is doing something terrible, all the Jews are blamed? Why if Israel does something that people don't like, all the Jews are blamed? There was something. There was
every earthquake, Israel is the first to send people there. Every humanitarian crisis, the Jews are the first the Israel is the first there. But when Syria kills 400,000 of its own people, we didn't see one protest on campus. But when
right,
Israel is fighting to defend its life, every college campus all of a sudden erupts. So what is it
right
with these people? Something
now.
doesn't seem right here.
Now we in order to understand the issue, we need to ask ourselves again. We talk about questions, so we need to ask ourselves what is actually wrong in the world. What's not working? Where is the darkness that is awaiting our light? And maybe that's a good question to ask ourselves, because if what we've been giving the world so far has not been enough to be the darlings of the world, or at least be, as one guest told us in a conversation, minimally respected. Okay, like he was really, his organization is aiming for a minimal level of respect. Okay, that's the goal of his organization. So, maybe at the very least, what's going on then? So to understand that, we have to look at what's happening in the world. And when you look at history, when you look at also the writings of Jewish sages, and you look at the human development, you see that there is something really interesting happening. There's a sort of a development engine, an evolutionary engine, if you will, that's been pushing humanity forward, and that is this desire to receive as much pleasure, comfort, fulfillment, however you want to, fill the blank, right? As much pleasure at minimum pain, or at least minimum pay. Okay, but at least this is the formula, the algorithm that's been shaping humanity, that's been driving humanity, and nature, we see, was rewarding it. Right? A new desire is born in me. I want to get food a little easier. So okay, I'll get down from the tree. I'll go hunt and gather. Then why do I have to go hunt and gather? It's too much work. Maybe I can farm and some animal husbandry. Okay, that's
For
great,
anybody who
but
doesn't know what's happening here, Leo moved from the Jewish thing for a second and went to the story of humanity. Just Leo, you're
yeah,
going
just
very
just for a
fast.
second,
Okay.
just for a
Okay.
brief second. So just to make a point, because we want to find out, again, we want to find out what's wrong with the world, and then we'll understand what kind of light we need to bring it, because the light that we've been bringing maybe was good, but it's not working now. So we need to maybe upgrade the software. So I'm just giving you an overview of the software. So right, so now I'm farming and everything, but even that is too much work. Maybe I can get someone else to do it. So I'm gonna go get some slave work to do it, some labor, right? Then someone else gets in and he wants my stuff and my slaves, because why should he even bother at all? He goes with a little army, takes my stuff, then I take his stuff, and we fight over resources, and we expand. If I get more power, I can get more money and more power and more fame and control, et cetera, et cetera. So these desires that have been developing in us, this food and family and money and honor and power, they have all been uh, erupting in us, growing more and more to get more fulfillment for less and less pain. And our human brain was just working out the details of how to acquire these fulfillments. That has been the engine of humanity. And you can see the results. The bigger your desires, the more egoistic you are. Okay. What I want for me at the expense of anyone and everyone else, include other people, the planet, it doesn't matter. Just give me, right? That quality has been rewarded, right? At the top of all the corporations are the biggest egoists. At the top of all the countries, all the presidents are the biggest egoists. I think by now it's clear. Nobody thinks that the president of a country is some, altruist. It's just not the case. So that has been the sort of the trajectory humanity was on, and Jews were in it. Jews were just doing what we do best. If you continue watching that clip that we showed at the beginning, you will see that we laid out the sort of this theory of Jews being hubs in the system of humanity. Where the Jews were the ones who are in those key intersections inside the human network, and you can say it's by circumstances because of the limitations of the church and this and that. That's fine. The reality is that Jews find themselves in those intersections: money, entertainment, information, networking, resources, all those things. And we're able to supply, to fulfill the egoistic needs of the network of people. We just do a really good job at it, right? It's no secret that Jews are really good at those things, right? You know everyone, you know what's happening with everyone. It's a natural tendency. So we are naturally finding ourselves in those positions throughout history, even today, right? Think of who's in Hollywood, who's in social media, who's like who are the people who created social networks in Wall Street, in Hollywood, in
There's a lot of complaints, for example,
yeah.
that the anti-Semites come out and say Jews control Jews are influential in the banks, Jews are influential in media, and right away there's a knee-jerk reaction on behalf of the Jews. Don't say that that's an anti-Semitic trope. But if you actually look at it, there's a disproportionate amount of Jews in media. There's a disproportionate amount of Jews in finance, in influential positions. So it's not bad, but let's see what it is that in each place, in each critical and important place, there are these Jews there. So if the Jews are in all of these places, so if they're not in those places in order to spread love and good connection to everyone.
Whoa, hold on. You're already spilling all the goods. Before that, so I want us to watch a clip before that, just before what Seth is saying, because again, people may have the natural conclusion that we're already doing that. We are fulfilling people's natural desires in whatever shape or form. I'm not saying everyone here is Mark Zuckerberg or right or a Harvey Weinstein or whatever. Sorry for bringing up his name, but you know what I mean. But Jews as a whole are those hubs in the network, and we're doing that, and we're treated again collectively, and so we're already it. There is a problem though. The development of the human ego has reached a certain peak, and our Jewish sages write about it. They write about it for millennia. They've been writing about it. It's written in all of our holy books, if you will. And maybe if we have time, we'll bring some quotes on that. But as that desire to receive pleasure grows and grows and grows, it starts to eventually, it reaches a limit, and it starts to eat itself. Kind of like cancer, to make a dire analogy. And that's what we're seeing humanity also being, the sort of the state of humanity in the world. We're kind of eating ourselves from within, if you think about it collectively on the planet. Also, our societies are not the healthiest societies, considering we have access to all the resources and knowledge and information, you name it, right? So something is wrong here. Something is out of balance. And that's the point that we need to look at if we want to understand the relationship of the world to the Jews. And I want to play a clip from a film we made also about a year after what you saw the first clip. It's a documentary. It's about a teacher. He's in Israel, and followed him around, and he's been traveling the world talking about these things. So this is an excerpt from a documentary that covered focused primarily on his trip to Los Angeles in 2014, I think, and he gave a talk there at the Skirball Center and about exactly this topic. So let's watch part of that. You're sort of jumping in mid movie. He's talking to. It starts by talking to a woman who heads the Amcha initiative. If you guys are familiar with it, they're fighting anti-Semitism on college. So they just started in 2012 or 2013, and he was talking to her a year later, right back then. So it starts with that. Then it goes to a reporter from Yediot Achronot, the Israeli newspaper, and then finally a professor who's passed away a couple of years ago. He was like a world-renowned professor for an anti-Semitism, Professor Vistrik. So let's watch that clip and then we continue.
זה בסדר, גם כן אני יכולה לדבר בעברית, אבל רציתי לשמוע ממך מה הפילוסופיה שלך על אנטישמיות ומה כאילו הפתרון.
הפתרון הוא לא שלי, זה נובע מחוכמה שאני לומד אותה כבר 45 שנה.
אני מניחה ששואלים אותך, אז למה... בואו, מתחילים בטח בשאלה הטריוויאלית כל כך של למה יש אנטישמיות.
שבוע לפני היציאה לארצות הברית הייתי בשיחה אצלנו באולפן, באוניברסיטה העברית, המומחה הראשון בעולם באנטישמיות.
שמי פרופסור ויסטר, אני מלמד מעל 30 שנה באוניברסיטה העברית בירושלים, אני עומד בראש המכון הבינלאומי לחקר האנטישמיות באוניברסיטה בהר הצופים. האנטישמיות כשלעצמה, ממה זה נובע, למה זה מתפרץ עכשיו, מה זה אומר לנו, מה המשמעות של התופעה. זאת השאלה הכבדה ביותר.
אז הוא אמר שהם לא יודעים. הם לא יודעים. יודעים רק שזה אירציונלי.
אי-רציונלי,
בוודאי. ודאי. לא קורה עם אף ודאי אומה ובאף מקום מה שקורה איתנו. שונאים אותנו אנשים ואומות שאנחנו אף פעם לא היינו בקשר איתם. זאת אומרת, זה דבר שצומח מהטבע פתאום, בא ומתפרץ כמו איזה דבר שבאמת אין לו, כביכול שאין לו שום סיבה קודמת.
אז מה שזה אומר בעצם שאם לא יודעים את הסיבה, אז המלחמה שלנו באנטישמיות היא די עבודה מראש.
זה לא מלחמה, אין לנו מה להילחם, אנחנו לא יודעים כלום בזה. הם אומרים שאנחנו תלויים ביהודים. איך היית מרגיש אם הייתה לך הרגשה כזאת כלפי איזה עם, שכל העתיד הטוב, כל האושר שלך, הוא עוצר ולא נותן לך ליהנות מהחיים? כך הוא מרגיש. מה אתה יכול לעשות עם זה? זו תופעה טבעית.
גם העניין של אור לגויים, נכון שזה יכול להרגיז. והעם הנבחר זה ברור, זה מוטיב חוזר באנטישמיות בכל התקופות, אצל כמעט כל העמים, חוץ מכמה בודדים. אין לנו ברירה אלא, לדעתי, לנסות ולהיות ראויים לזה.
מה חוכמת הקבלה?
So to kind of pick up on that, the world is in an interesting place. Not only do people share this feeling towards us, as was said, as a whole, the world is reaching a dead end in every human endeavor. That erupting ego is not allowing us to reach beyond. And I'm not just saying that it affects just the way we interact. Rather, it's at the foundation of everything. If we stay in that worldview, we won't be able to advance to the next level of our evolution, the way we relate to each other, that extreme individuation that we see today in the world, that sort of like almost like humanity is crumbling. It's breaking apart into its individual atoms. Even families barely hold together. Families, we know for Jews, wow, the family is like, right, the number or the smallest unit of society, and we sanctify it. But in the rest of the world, and again, people who sort of strayed away from that ideal, from these ideas, these values, it's lost. So the world is in a very lonely place, very lost place. That's the darkness that we see. That's the result of this evolution, and that's at the foundation of our political conflicts, all these wars, all these unnecessary competitions for resources where this planet can really feed and clothe everyone. The fact that we can't move forward in science, in education, in economics, everybody's kind of like flailing in the dark. That's the darkness that we're seeing. And this is here the place for us to ask, okay, what does that have to do with us, with Jews? That, Seth, is where we can start talking about it a little bit. A little bit. Let's.
So this is a question that people have a hard time understanding. What is that Jew? Is he religious? Is it a religious thing? Is it an ethnic thing? Is it a racial thing? But if we look at this group of Jews, it's clear to us that, well, we're gonna tell you what we've discovered, and you should just try it on for the sake of this conversation here, that the Jewish people are a microcosm of humanity. Okay, if you look at this people, if anyone has been to Israel, for example, you got black Jews, you got white Jews, you have gay Jews, you have straight Jews, you have fat Jews, you have skinny Jews, you got Mizrahi Jews, you have Ashkenazi Jews, you have Jews from Morocco, Jews from Iraq, Jews from Iran, Jews from Poland, Jews from Spain, right? What is this? How can it be? And we're just a few million people. So it turns out that if you trace this nation back to Abraham, when Abraham left Babylon with that group of people, he didn't leave Babylon with just his kin. He left with who Babylon at the time was the New York City of the day. That was the metropolis of the world at that time. Everybody knows that out of that place came cuneiform, came the sailboat, came agriculture, right? The Fertile Crescent. This is what we're talking about. Actually, this might be kind of new to people because the Jewish thing was always kind of some fairy tale. There was a burning bush and there was a snake that spoke to a woman and all the, the ocean split open. But if we go back and we look at all of our texts and we also pair it with Josephus and we pair it with everything else that happened to us, we can start to piece something together here. Look at what was going on in Babylon around those times. This was the cradle of civilization. That's where Abraham came out of. Abraham was a cultural revolutionary. He brought this new, there was no such thing, everyone, there was no such thing as world peace. Okay? This is not just a foregone conclusion that there should be such thing as world peace or a foregone conclusion that everyone should love another. This was something that Abraham brought to humanity, that everyone should be as one. This was not something that everybody just naturally understood. So when he left Babylon, he left with all of those people who shared this idea. And we'll get a little more into that in a bit. But when we now think of who those Jewish people are, it wasn't that, where are Spanish people from? Spain. Where are French people from? France. Where are Algerian people from? Algeria. But where are Jewish people from? Who are these people? They didn't originate in one place. And not even that. King David, right? Everyone has heard of King David? Okay, he wrote Psalms. His grandmom was a convert. Okay? Moses, the big Moses, he married the daughter of a Midianite priest. So you see that on and on, as you go through our story, there's this constant intermingling with nations absorbing and then intermingling and absorbing and intermingling. So it's not this racial purity thing. It's some inner process that's happening in humanity. And it turns out that this small group called the Jews, just like in our brain, for example, or the heart, there's a small organ that influences the entire organ, while the hand is very important. What goes on with the hand doesn't control the whole body, but what goes on in the heart, you could say, or the mind does. So this is a small group that somehow is a microcosm of all of humanity. And instead of us now, and of course we need the IDF, okay? And of course we need friends in Washington and all of that. But for us, unless one of you is, a billionaire or has some special influence, so then keep it up. But besides that, where is our weapon? What is the weapon in our hand? You know, what's the weapon in Jacqueline's hand, or in Linda's hand, or in Laser's hand, or in Mark's hand here, Sandra's hand? What can we do? If we, as Jews, start to reconnect all of these pieces between us and start to be in this microcosm as one family, so this connection between us will spread through the entire network, will spread through all of humanity. What happens in the Jewish people spreads to the entire humanity, whether it's through entertainment, whether it's through medicine, whether it's through politics, whether it's through our Torah. Half the whole world is now, most of the world is now monotheistic because of our Torah, right? They became the Christians and they became the Muslims, right? It's billions of people from all based from our Torah. So whatever happens in the Jewish people spreads out. Of course, it takes on different shapes as it's absorbed. If we can make this unity, this spirit between us, we don't have to worry about every single detail. It's impossible to manage every single detail. But if we make a spirit of love, if you love one another, you don't want to hurt anybody. You don't have to legislate a law about people putting poisons in food or about people putting poisons in building materials, because if you loved people, you would never want to poison them. Why do they need to make all of these laws that you can't put this in the food and you can't put that in the paint and you can't put that in formaldehyde in the building material that's going to be in the bedroom? Why do they have to make all those laws? They have to make those laws because people are interested in exploiting other people for profit. And by the way, we're all normal people with work and we have bills to pay. We're not against making a profit. That's not the point of the conversation. But people who love each other do not try and cause others harm. So we don't need to come up with a law about how to legislate on building materials and how to legislate about weapons and how to legislate about these things, because you would never want to harm anyone. In fact, to the contrary, we would have an entire society of people, first between us, and then it would grow. We would have an entire society of people who are caring for the other, who are looking out for the other. And it turns out also, if you see what Rashi said about on the commentary of when they were standing there at Mount Sinai, that the condition for receiving the Torah, and let me make one more point here. In Christianity, they have Jesus. In Buddhism, they have Buddha. In Islam, they have the Prophet Muhammad. For the Jews, we don't have one guy. The whole nation received the Torah. It's very, very unique. The entire nation was there, and the condition for receiving the Torah was that they had to be, as Rashi calls it, as one man with one heart. They needed to be as one. And that condition of becoming one allowed them to receive the Torah. Whatever that means, it's a much bigger conversation.
Let's watch another clip that will sort of help frame what Seth was talking about from the point of view of what our sages were saying, what the wisdom of Kabbalah is saying. Kabbalists or Jewish sages and studied the internality of things, the sort of the meaning behind the simple expressions in our holy books. So let's see what he's saying, and it's very interesting because it leads to exactly what Seth was talking about. So another short clip here.
חוכמת הקבלה אומרת כך, שאנחנו, מקור של העם שלנו הוא מבבל, שאברהם ייסד אותנו, והוא קרא לבבלים שהוא רוצה לאסוף קבוצה שתעבוד לפי העיקרון ואהבת לרעך כמוך. אלה שהלכו אחרי אברהם, הם קיבלו על עצמם תנאי, אהבת הזולת. זאת אומרת, אנחנו צריכים להתחבר למרות שהטבע כל הזמן מעורר בנו האגו, התחייה ההדדית זה מזה. ובתנאי הזה, מאברהם שחיבר תחילת העם שלנו, לפי הנוסחה הזאת, ועד החורבן בית המקדש השני, לפני 2000 שנה, אנחנו חיינו יחד לפי הכלל הזה, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, פחות או יותר. עד שלפני 2000 שנה התפרץ בהם האגו עד כדי כך שהם התחילו להרגיש שנאה הדדית והתפזרו. אנחנו היום לא עם. אין לנו את החוקה הזאת הפנימית, הרוחנית, שמחזיקה אותנו ומחייבת אותנו להתחבר. ולכן אנחנו מגיעים למצב שאנחנו שנואים לכל העולם. ואת יכולה לחפש כאן תירוצים כמה שאת רוצה. זה לא יעזור. רק דבר אחד כאן הסיבה, שאנחנו לא מביאים לעולם עתיד הטוב. העם שלנו נקרא עם רק אם הוא מחובר על ידי האהבה. והבעיה היא שבמידה שאנחנו נפרדים זה מזה, אנחנו מיד זוכים לשנאה.
שכשהמטרה שלהם, למשל, לדעתך,
שהמטרה שלהם, לפי התוכנית הטבע, להגיע גם כן לחיבור ולאהבה של כל האנושות כולה.
איתנו גם, עם העם היהודי?
אנחנו צריכים קודם כל להגיע לזה ולהראות להם דוגמה. זה נקרא להיות אור לגויים.
אוקיי.
מפני שאנחנו לא מקיימים את זה, אנחנו אז חוטפים מכות. כאן יכול להיות, אפילו בתוך אמריקה, ומהר מאוד, כמו שהיה לפני 80 שנה בגרמניה. זה אותם התנאים כמו שהיו שם אז. אתם רוצים לשבת שם באוניברסיטאות ולחכות? חכו. אבל הייתה לנו...
לא רוצים, אנחנו מאוד פעילים.
זה לא יעזור.
האנטישמיות מילא תמיד את התפקיד הזה בתולדות עם ישראל. קודם כל, להחזיר את היהודים לתודעה שהם יהודים.
אנחנו לא יכולים לברוח מהתפקיד שלנו. אנחנו חייבים להביא לעולם דוגמה איך להתחבר.
מה זה בדיוק להתחבר?
זה להתחנך. להתחנך להיות יחד. להרגיש שאני שייך לעם אחד. להרגיש שאנחנו כולנו צריכים להיות ככל ישראל חברים.
מה איבדנו בדרך? איזה ערך?
So I think it would be great if you guys ask some questions before we add more on top, because there's a lot we kind of covered. Some historic
Unless
things.
everyone agrees that we all need to be in love as one family, then we can wrap it up and get an early lunch.
Leo and Seth, there are some questions in the chat, just so you know.
Sure, bring up.
Yeah, one. Okay, so Brenda asked a question that two people, I think including you, put a thumbs up. What's the answer? Donald, maybe I'm wondering if people can just sort of say their own, because I know I got a couple of direct messages, and I think people have some questions about why. Okay, so I asked about why is anti-Semitism not stopping? We see this, as you said, in every couple of generations. We see they're coming at us. We always think it's one or two, but really it's continuing. And then there's other, I know Jacqueline wanted to know about living the Passover plagues, and Donald had another question as well. So maybe you can get started on those.
Sure. I mean, if someone wants to ask personally the question in person and elaborate, that'd be great. But if not, we can kind of, continue from that. I think the hardest thing I find, and we talk to a lot of people who sometimes are very active in fighting anti-Semitism, and they're doing, as best they can, right, to try to stop it by forming alliances and creating campaigns and awareness things and that, and donations and all kinds of stuff. And there's some great work that's being done. There's no question. I think the thing to wrap your head around first is that there is a bigger plan. Now, it doesn't matter if you want to say, okay, it's some divine thing because I'm more of a religiously minded person, or it's some cosmic thing, and if you're more of a spiritual thing, or if you just say, I look at the facts, I look at nature, I look at the system of laws here, and there's something that I have to accept, that I'm seeing these patterns. Jews stick together, they fare pretty well, even when the world is doing poorly. Sometimes Jews sort of come out of it. By the way, the time of the Inquisition, for example, was worse for Christians who were suspected as being unfaithful or leaving the church and all that than it was for Jews. And it was only towards the end in Spain when a son of a Jewish family, Torquemada, went and really started to go against the Jews who were concealing their Jewishness by trying to be like everyone else. And that kind of got the ire of the church, and led by Torquemada, son of a Jewish family, to demand the expulsion of the Jews. So put that aside. The fact is that there is some sort of an ongoing thing, that there's a pattern here, and it seems to obey certain laws. That's the first thing. If we accept that, we're already in a good place. Whether whether you say it's the commandment of some creator, or it's the force of nature, it doesn't matter. It's just you're in it. So it doesn't matter what kind of story you want to tell yourself. The fact is that we're traveling through that story. And now we should ask ourselves, okay, maybe that is a story. I don't like it, that I have to somehow do something, because nobody likes to get up and work, but maybe we are somehow thrust into this position, and people are saying it to us repeatedly. Maybe we do need to start looking at ourselves as responsible for the world, and try to ask ourselves how to do that, how to be that good example, as Seth was starting to allude to before the clip, how to be as one man in one heart. What is that thing, rather than spend time on fighting anti-Semites, trying to be like everyone, don't be too Jewish, be a little bit of Jewish, talk to these people, marry those people. Like we're constantly trying to sort of deal with the symptoms rather than going to the root cause. And I see, but before we maybe continue, I see Jacqueline has a question, raised her hand. So let's take more specific questions, and then we can kind of delve a little bit deeper into the solution. Yes, Jacqueline.
Yes. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the two of you for bringing all those dark points with so much smile and love and energy and research. And this is very rewarding to me, because as all of us, I'm trying to say, what do we do next? Okay, I don't want to go back to love. Effectively, it's about love. It's not about hate. But unfortunately, with my little work as an individual, I realized that our large Jewish organizations, and I was on the board of the ADL for many years, are still using the word hate, and many of them. How can we change that? And loving each other between Jews is going to be easy. I suppose I met you, Leo. I think you came to our book fair in San Diego. Did you?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I was the book fair director. I mean, we met 2 or 3 times on your publication, and I love you. I also love my husband and my daughter. Okay. But how are we going to transfer that to the non-Jews? And how are we going to use their capability of reception of our love, if not by respecting them, by accepting their faith, by accepting their history? How are you going to do that? I will just say a few more words. I have developed my way, okay, as an educator. I like it. I hope I will be able to share it in the future. Thank you.
Jacqueline, one thing that we forget a lot of times, or all of the time, is it doesn't matter if you call it nature or you call it God. So Jacqueline, let's think of what mom and dad do when mom and dad want to make a baby. Okay. So there's something that mom and dad do together, and takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but did they form the ears? Did they shape the nose? Did they put the brain in there? You know, did they make the heart, the four parts of the heart, and arrange all the organs? Really? Who took care of almost when it came to making a baby? Let's look at the effort that mom and dad made for a couple hours one night and all the effort that nature made in order to make that happen. What's really required? And we can look pretty much everywhere in our world. What's really required of us, right? You want to drive your car. There's a bunch of systems. There's something called combustion. There's something called friction. There's the nature of gas and air and the mixture of gas and air. You turn the key, step on the pedal, and this huge multi-ton machine moves, right? So the way that nature, if we just look very clearly and soberly at the system, we don't need to turn the whole world on its head. All we need to know is where to push the button. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that we don't have to pull our hair out trying to understand what nature's already showing us, right? If you push something over a cliff, it's just going to fall. It's going to. So if the man and the women get together, nature's going to do 99.9% of the work in order to make that baby. If you step on the pedal, all of those forces that are in there are going to make that car propel. So here again, first of all, it's just a lot of what we're talking about is first and foremost education, just understanding the system itself. After that, the next question is, okay, so like, what do I do? I get it and I'm into it. I buy it. So now what do we do? Right? I think that's what you're asking. Or are you just saying, how is it going to work? How are we going to affect all of the nations?
I want us to find the road of the car. I want us to say, we are living from A, I am a scientist, and we are living from A, we have to arrive in B. B, you stated very, very clearly, the two of you, during your presentation. The well-being, the work together, the success, but you also presented a number of questions, which are the stop, where I want to take gas, and the gas station is closed. Okay, what do I do? So, and how do I solve that?
Okay,
and
so
I
think Jacqueline, I think again, if we can focus on the short questions first, that would be easy because each one is really a doorway. As Seth was saying, we need to first of all start, and I don't think we've started. I think to start means to recognize the thing that is our mutual enemy, and that is our own egoistic inclination. And Jews, Israelis, we because of the way we evolved, sort of in parallel to humanity, we carry a very strong ego. We know, so two Jews, three opinions, right? We know that. So we need to start first with recognizing that. First, a diagnosis of the disease. Then we need to start forming small circles at first of those who are interested in overcoming that condition. If I have a condition, I can't fight it on my own. Just like most illnesses, you can't fight on your own. You need help.
We don't have to go for the most difficult extreme. We need to start, like Leo just said, with those who agree at first and who are willing to do the work.
Right. And we decide to first of all understand, learn about this illness. And there are people who wrote about it. Our own people, our Jewish sages wrote about it many, many years ago. And just as all these other prophecies have come true, there's no reason to not consider at least what they're saying. Consider their instruction. And there's very clear instruction on how to form these circles and what do I do in those circles? How do I begin to align myself with nature that has, as I mentioned earlier, has changed its software, changed the way it rewards us. It used to reward the biggest egoist. Now, no more. Now it's going to reward the biggest connection, the biggest network, the biggest connectors, altruists, if you will. Those will be rewarded by nature. We see nature doing it already on the lower levels. If you look at mold, for example, the way mold starts as individual cells and then finds a way to become a superorganism. And also in the human body, you see it, how all these different opposing organs and chemicals and materials, they all come together and form this amazing body, which can then be a carrier for an even higher consciousness, which is even higher than the physical body. So we see examples for it. We need to start being that first in small circles and then in bigger circles, because we need help to fight that mutual enemy. So, and that will be the fuel to your question, by giving each other the importance of this work, by reminding each other what we have to do, helping each other make concessions toward each other. This is the only way. And yes, all those organizations you mentioned, all those Jewish organizations, very, very proud, very egoistic, very convinced of the righteousness of their ways. And that's sadly why we see things repeating. So we have to put them aside for now. Start with those who are willing to listen. Let's take another question, because
I just want to say we have Mark first. We
Yeah.
have Gabby who put her hand down because she thinks the answer is coming, and then we have Donald.
Okay, good. So Mark.
All right. First of all, thank you very much for giving us a lot to think about. My question really is, I don't think anyone disagrees that love and connectivity and unity are the ideals. But I'm a practical person. I was a teacher. I'm currently working on a number of materials to reach children, because I'm afraid that what we're doing here is preaching to the choir. And I agree with Jackie that what we have to do is also reach out past the choir. So my question is, how do you reach the ideal? In listening to you, it almost sounds as if you're blaming the Jews themselves for the problems that you are creating, that you're talking about.
So let me answer that. Let's answer that, because you make a good point. No one is blaming the Jews for the growing ego. No, that's a natural process. Again, if you look at our Jewish sources, they speak about it. They speak about, the Creator says, "I've created the evil inclination." There's like all kinds of references. They're just hidden. We don't like to see them. We like to, the biggest rule in the Torah, love thy friend. Like there's all kinds of mentions, but we say, okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to these things later. There's other things. So first of all, that is a natural progression that's been put in place for a reason. There is a reason behind it. I don't think we can get into it right this second, but there is a reason. And that's a process. That's a natural process. When we are aligned with this process, we are in harmony with the laws of the system. When we're not aligned, in fact, when we go the opposite direction, as, for example, things were on October 6th in Israel, we went the opposite. One half of the country wanted to cancel the other half. There was no discussion. There was no, let's find the best, the higher ground. No, there was, you out of here. We went the opposite way, right? Diametrically opposite to that rule of love and inclusion. And so nature does basically, it just responds. You could just look at it like a force. If you fall from a ladder, you break your leg. Why? Gravity. So what, are you blaming the victim? No, I'm saying you broke a law and there are consequences. So it's very important to say that.
Isn't that basically a tautology? Is that really almost circular reasoning that if you can unite, of course you're not going to have, differences of opinion.
No. Differences of opinions are good.
Actually, the whole Talmud, for example, is differences of opinion. We have no problem. In fact, that's why when we talk about Israel being a microcosm of humanity, the magic here, Mark, is that there's so many differences of opinion, right? People say, oh, love, sure, I can love. No, really, we can't. It's very, very difficult. It's easy to love someone who I agree with. It's easy to love someone who's got the same opinions as me. But now the way that we're organized as Jews, we have a small group of people with a lot of different opinions. It's not easy to have the same opinion. And the whole basis of all of those arguments between Hillel and Shammai, for example, all the arguments in the Talmud, this one says it's like this, and this one says it's like this. And usually there's some third thing that settles it. There's some, we're specific, like in a family, for example, you got mom and you got dad. Mom maybe serves a more nurturing role, and maybe dad serves a more strict role, for example. Okay, but it serves the family. And if one is missing, so then one of them has to take on something else. But we're specifically saying that let's take water, for example, just to use nature again. Oxygen is a flammable gas. Hydrogen is a flammable gas. But if you allow a couple 100 million years or more of them smashing and being burnt and doing this, and eventually they can figure out how to be arranged, well, you get an emergent quality called water. Who could have thought that by taking two flammable gases and putting together, you would get liquid? So there's something that happens when these different qualities can come together.
How do you do that? That's the question I'm asking.
Okay, so this is the method. This is wonderful. That's the method. We didn't discuss the method yet. And Leo, I don't know if we want to discuss the method right now, but
maybe Jeffrey will invite us another time to discuss the method.
But we shouldn't leave it hanging. It's not it's not like Leo and I have some trick in our pocket, okay, that we're withholding. But
right.
but in short, Mark, in your home, right, if your kid does something wrong, even if he's being, saying something dumb, we overlook it. We're searching for the good in the other because we're part of the same network. We're constantly searching for the good in the other. It's not some trick that we don't want to tell you. And if you buy our subscription, we're not selling anything. Okay. But the method is, how do we organize ourselves in for example, a group of 10, which was how Jethro told Moses, organize them in tens, and then hundreds, and then thousands. So start in this small group, not too big, not too small, make it 10. Even in Abraham's book, the book of creation, he says 10, not 9, not 11. Start in that small group. And each one is trying to build on the other, not cancel the other. And you'll get some emergent qualities that happen there because of nature, like when the man and woman get together and make the baby, or when hydrogen and oxygen together and make water. There is nature that participates in when we as humans start to make these connections.
It's called love covers all transgressions. That's sort of the short version of this method, right?
I don't disagree with you. I think that's a wonderful ideal. But
and I'll tell you
what,
Mark,
group is dedicated to that.
Good.
That's why we're here.
Okay. Again, I don't think we found anyone who actively disagreed. The trick is, how do you do it every moment of every day? How do you think about it? How do you exert in that direction? How do you turn all your efforts into that? How do you make that the most important thing that gets you out of bed, rather than, oh, how do I make another dollar? Not you, but how do I make another little business here? And I take care of this guy's wedding, and this is bar mitzvah, and we got to travel here and get a new house there. It's like it gets drowned by all these layers that we sort of developed, lacking this proper direction for many years. We just try to be like everyone else, and we just allow these layers to eventually cover us. But that's not really our place in humanity. Just like the Levites in Israel have no property, it's kind of like that for Jews in the world. Our role is not to just be like everyone, but better. Because guess what? We can see the system because we're connected. It's like it's like we have two eyes and everybody else has one eye. So what does that leave everyone else? No, that's not the game. The game is not to use that quality to fulfill ourselves better than everyone else. No, the game is how to rise above these natural egoistic desires and seek to find always the love on top of them. And that's a 24/7 challenge that even the best of people are not yet doing. Let's take another question. Who was that, Sheryl?
We had, okay, I'm getting direct messages by accident. Okay, Donald is saying he's expecting somebody. Donald, if you have a question, Gabby, did you get your question answered? You did, okay. All right.
Sheryl, while you look for questions, I have a great quote from someone. Actually, it's someone, those things that we tell you about. And I know, again, I know you guys are probably already in our camp, so I don't have to make a heavy case for that. But I think it's nice because to remind ourselves that it's not only coming from us. In fact, the rest of the world does see it. People who've been thinking about Jews and the relationship to Jews and all that, they've been seeing it throughout the generations and talking about it, and either becoming, converting to Judaism, joining this team, this commando of humanity, or at least, making appeals to that group. And I want to read you a little quote from a guy who lived he was a member of the Russian parliament in 1917, the Duma, and he wrote a book. Here let me share my screen here. He wrote a book. It was called What We Don't Like About Them. That's the name of the book, very straightforward. And he says, Jews in the 20th century have become very smart, effective, and vigorous at exploiting other people's ideas. However, he protests, this is not an occupation for teachers and prophets, not the roles of guides of the blind, not the role of carriers of the lame. And he continues, the author here makes a case that there's a contradiction between the book and he actually makes a point of going back to the Jews and demanding that. And in another essay, he says, let them, the Jews, rise to the height to which they apparently climbed in antiquity, and immediately all nations will rush to their feet. They will rush not by virtue of compulsion, but by free will, joyful in spirit, grateful and loving, including the Russians. We ourselves will request, give us Jewish rule, wise, benevolent, leading us to the good. And every day we will offer the prayers for them, for the Jews. Bless our guides and our teachers who lead us to the recognition of your goodness. So there is that expectation, but are we doing it day in, day out? And remember, collectively, eventually as Jews, we're judged collectively. We'll share the name of the book and the author, and we'll share all those details in the end, I promise. Jeffrey, do you have a question?
I do. I want to just give you a little background, both of you, and for those who are new to our One Revolution group. This all started on October 7th, when my phone, my email, my Zoom, my WhatsApp connections all blew up. I was actually on a Zoom in San Diego, enjoying a nice coffee meeting with friends. I didn't know what was going on until I came off the phone, the Zoom, opened my news feeds, and boy, was shocked. And then I started to return some phone calls, some Zoom requests, and I started to talk to some survivors from our group who all were horrified, thought there would be another Holocaust in their lifetime. They didn't know what to do. And then the next day on Sunday, second generation, which is primarily what this group is made of, and third generation, also were traumatized by what they were seeing in Israel. And so we started immediately thinking about what we could do to help, and we created a Havara, support Havara, which was well attended by many of the people in this audience. It is actually how I met Sheryl as she became part of that Havara. So my question to you is, okay, you live in Israel, and Seth, you're here in the United States. You're seeing that incubator of Jewishness in Israel falling apart. And so what would you recommend your country do to align with your theory? And Seth, you're seeing an explosion of anti-Semitism on campuses. It's quite shocking, to be honest, to see what these encampments, what violence is happening on campuses. So I'll throw those two questions out to you. One was how Israel is not following the love. And it seems to be, the government doesn't seem to be following the love theory. So I'll leave you those questions to answer.
Seth, you want to start with the colleges, and then I'll kind of bring Israel?
What we saw after October 7th is that tragedy brings us to unity. Tragedy brings us, just one second. that when something like this happens, you know, I lived in New York during 9/11, and I remember everybody was holding the door for everybody. Everybody was so kind. I remember a conversation I had with my dad after on 9/11, or within the next few days. Dad, you won't believe it. I think it's happening. Everyone realizes we need to get along. It's an unbelievable experience being in New York now. Everybody feels like we're just all in this together. And I remember what he said. It was like a punch to the stomach. He goes, just give it 2 months, son. I said, what? I just think I hung up the phone on him. I was young. I was so devastated by what he said. He was 100% correct. He was 100% correct. I don't know if it's exactly 2 months, but it went back to normal. The question, everybody, is if October 7th happened, but only 20 people, God forbid, were killed. It wasn't so successful for the terrorists and only 20 people were killed. Would we be doing this? If 100 people, would we be doing this? At some point, there's some threshold, and then that gets us going. Okay? So, right, think about it. It's pretty hurtful to even think about. If it was 20 people, you know, we would have gotten over it quicker. Are we in such a state of slumber that we require these kind of events in order for us to make a change, in order for us to unite? When we don't have a tragedy, what do we have that will unite us? So when it comes to the United States, and I'm very sorry to say, I don't know if we here will be able to avoid more and more trouble. I really don't. I think that we are trying everything we can. We're talking to everyone we can. We're educating as much as we can. Of course, we need police and you need an army and all of those things. But I don't think that, you know, and we see that it's not just about, well, let's leave it at that. It may, people said never again, right? About after what happened in the 30s in Germany. But look at what's going on in the schools. Jewish kids can't go to their classes. Swastikas being painted on Jewish businesses. And we're all just carrying on. So it may require, it's terrible to say, but I don't know if what we don't have, Leo and I don't have, and our friends don't have billions of dollars to set up in social media campaigns and get everybody and put billboards everyone and educate in all the schools. Qatar is spending billions of dollars on our school, on our colleges. Everyone should know that. These protests on college campuses did not happen organically overnight. These things have been organized. There's different departments in the college, in all of these universities. Different professors have been hired through the years. Different classes have been added. There's a whole. This is not just some freak thing that just miraculously happened. So in the United States, will we be able to make a change before another tragedy happens? I hope so, but we may not.
So to continue that, first of all, we have if you go to our channel, our YouTube channel, or to our Spotify, you can listen to all the Jew Function episodes, and I encourage everyone here to, just for fun, if you have time, to listen to the first 20 episodes, because they're following this book that I just read from here. It's called The Jewish Choice: Unity or Antisemitism, and we make it easier. Because the book is not really a novel. It's kind of a heavy read, but the podcast is actually there's music, the soundtrack, it's really nice. The first 20 episodes really open up this historic patterns that we've been talking about, so you can listen to that. Also, down the line we have talks with guests. One of the latest talks, number 70, I forget the number, 656, which with Professor Shai Davidai from Colombia. So you can see the guy who he got really famous overnight, a few days after the 7th, by stepping on the lawn and screaming about what's happening. So you can see some of that. We talk about those things. But before I talk about Israel, even now looking at the chat, you have a few people talking about, well, Israel should do this to the Palestinians, not should do that. It doesn't matter. That's here. See, that's where we fall off the track, where you fall into politics, into I'm going to blame someone for something. No, don't blame anyone for anything. Blame yourself if you want. that's at least something you can control. You can't control what's happening in Israel. You have no clue what's happening. Nobody has really a clue about what's happening on the ground. I have a friend who is a member of the highest, the most elite commando in the army, right? Sayeret Matkal, it's called, right? It's like the SEALs or whatever, like the highest. This guy is in. He's sharing stuff, and even he only knows like a tiny portion of what's happening. We have no clue. What the media gives you, it's like a tip of an iceberg. There's like 99% that you don't know. So the whole discussion is moot. It serves one purpose: more separation.
Right.
We need to. Sheryl, you wanted to jump in?
No, I was enthusiastically yeah, right. But there are two people with hands up, so I wanted you to notice Donald.
Yes. I will know, but I want to answer Jeffrey's question, so I'm leading up to that. The point is that, to me, asking about Israel, I see one again. Seth and I like to look at a bigger picture, right? So the meta data of what's happening, and it was very clear on the 7th, right after, the Israelis united like never before. It was palpable. You felt it here. You felt it in the world. The support of the world was overwhelming. But just like Seth's dad said, I'll give it a couple of months. Sure enough, 2-3 months later, again, everything cracking up, infighting, again, demonstrations on the streets, off with his head, off with their head, all that stuff. That's killing us. And if you don't believe it, Hezbollah is saying it, the Hamas is saying it, everybody's saying it. Oh, we're just waiting for you guys to, just like Titus was waiting outside Jerusalem. Let those fundamentalists kill half of their people, and then we'll just come in and take what we need. This has always been the story, and that's just the externality of that story. Forget the inner quality that we just discussed in this past hour, this quality that we have to carry in the network. So no, it's not happening, and no, it's not the government. It's an individual responsibility that every person should have with himself first, and then connect with others who feel the same. That's the only way to do it. And then from that, to start spreading the word, slowly teaching those who want to be taught, evoking questions if they're not ready to be taught yet, leading by example. That's what we have. And it can happen really quickly, by the way. Even though it sounds like a terribly long undertaking, it can happen very quickly, just like it happened on the 7th. We can do it. We can come together, but not because of the threat, but ahead of the threat, regardless of the threat. That's really the trick. And so that's what, if Jeffrey asks what can be done, I think that should be the demand from Israelis, not from the Israeli government. Forget the government. The government as the result of this toxic land in which they grew. The soil is bad. So what are you blaming the tomato for being bad? That's ridiculous. No, forget that tomato. We'll take this tomato. No, they all grew out of this poisonous soil. What are we talking about? We have to change the soil. The soil is the relationship between us. So if you have connections to Israelis, pressure them to unite, to take personal stock. If you have connection with Jews in America, tell them to demand that of the Jewry in America and to demand it of themselves and of Israelis. Tell them to, if they can get to people who support more of these demonstrations, which are just tearing us apart, tell them to stop if you can. I don't know if you can. It's a lot of Jews behind it. So that's what I would say is what I'm hoping would happen.
Before we get to Yifat, I want to just follow up with that. It's the reason why we created this community, and we called it the One Revolution. It's the one. And when I first heard Sheryl present these ideas, I was on board in a nanosecond. And I'm really happy that you can bring such clarity to the ideas that Sheryl presented last 2 months ago. So I'll ask Yifat too, who's also in Israel, in Haifa, so she'll have the next floor.
Wait, first Donald. Donald's been waiting for quite a long time. Sorry, Yifat. Donald, are you there? I don't know, maybe he's not even there. Donald, the hand's up, but I don't see him.
He's not.
Okay, then.
Oh, there he is.
Let me go and cover two things that I wanted to cover. One, this concept of unity is fantastic, except that we have already differences within not only the Jewish community as a whole, but each of these religious groups have their differences. And our biggest difference is that we do believe differently. We look for the good, we look for the positive, and most of these other religions look for the negatives. And that creates in itself a problem. We are a people that believes in God, and we love God as opposed to fearing God. That separates us from one. Then we have another that says, if you don't believe in us, in our way, then you should die. That accounts for another group.
True.
So in order for us to say what is going on in the colleges, these people do not understand even the simplest of terms like disproportionate. And I wrote an article about that. What is proportionate? What is not proportionate? When you take out 1,200 Jews, that represented a percentage of the total Jews in the world. And to equate that to the Islamics, it would be required of us to kill 1.2 or 1.7 million Muslims to equal the 1,200 that were killed on October the 7th. That would be proportionate.
Sure.
So
what's your question, Donald?
So what's the question, Donald? My question is, why are we accepting all of this nonsense? It's not a disproportionate war. That's the whole thing. Jews are not disproportionate.
Look, you're right. First, look, you don't have to convince me. Thank you. You don't have to convince me or Seth. But as we presented in the beginning, this whole thing is irrational. So there's no point of even looking for rational response from the world. There are those who are doing this work for us, right? There are people who go, they wave the flag of rationality. You know, you have Douglas Murray, who's doing an amazing job. It's not even Jewish. And there are others. There are friends of the Jews. There's a saying, right? Israel is not a widow. I don't know how you translate it in English, but we're not widows. But there's always someone to take care of us. But it only works as long as we actually turn our focus toward what we need to do, what no one else can. We have that ability. We have the ability of sitting around the table and welcoming. I think said at the very, very beginning where we started, welcoming the Shabbat table, welcoming the gay son who's back, and the Haredi son, and the hipster son, and the daughter who married this guy, and all those different things. The ability to contain all these opposites, we have it. We're not exercising it between us as a nation right now, and that's our problem. We have it in small pockets, but they're not big enough. It's time for those pockets to start taking over.
And everyone says that it's like easy to love. So like, imagine you're a Trump guy or gal, and someone's arguing for Biden, or imagine you're a Biden person and they're arguing for Trump, or you're a Netanyahu guy, or you're a never Netanyahu guy, right? So the point is, it's not so easy as we think. It's not such a foregone conclusion that, we just unite, and then, you just say unite. So that's fine. I can unite. That's easy. Now what should we do? No, it's actually very, very not simple to to on the one hand, and you look at Leo and I, we both have families, we both work. We're not talking about going to some mountaintop and being some monk. On the one hand, you need to be in the world. And on the other hand, engaged with someone who has an opposite opinion from you and be able to find something greater than both of you that you can that guides you forward. It's not so simple. Everyone says unite. That's easy. Now, what's next? It's actually not so easy.
Yifat?
Yifat, and then Brenda comes after.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much. It's just fascinating and amazing. What I have so much to say. I can't say all I have, but it's not really a question. It's like more echoing what you're saying to what we actually had in our mind, as Jeffery said. Funding the idea of one revolution or one. We are one. The word "one" has its like initials of a whole saying, which really resonate with what you actually said. So I would love, I hope I would do it quickly, kind of wrap some ideas that came up here and questions and see how it works together. But before that, I would just like to emphasize, because I know many people sit here and join our meetings, are looking at the practical side. And eventually everything is practical. Once we understand there's an ideology, it's part of practical. But we are dealing with anti-Semitism as a fact in the world now. Very, it's like a fire, and practically we need to handle that. And I believe, as following what you say, anti-Semitism is a tool. Is a tool for this idea that would basically, it's quite simple. It is the fight between good and evil, love and hatred. Are we separation and unity? And anti-Semitism is one of those tools of those people who want to fight the basic idea, threatened by the idea, because they thrive on diversity and on separation. So if we take one huge representative of those guys, like Hitler, one of the things he wrote in his book, Mein Kampf, is one of the reasons that he emphasized why they hate the Jews so much is because the Jews are playing the compass of the world, which is quite a compliment for us, yeah. But it's a reason why we are hated. So are we going to play the role or not? It's not up to us. I mean, it is a role someone has to play, and we were chosen by, I believe, that as a nation, as a group of people, the Jewish peoples, we are a nation of trauma, been traumatized again and again and again through generations. And someone raised a question here, or this saying, do we need that? Or do we really have to be heated all the time, understanding that something should be changed? Well, I don't know if we need to do it, but we that's our history. So we better thrive from that. And that's one of the lessons we get. Many of us here sitting here are second generation, third generations from Holocaust survivors still living with us, some of our Holocaust survivors sitting here. And I believe that's one of the major lessons we should learn from Holocaust is, okay, it happened. What are we going to do about that? Yeah, we should grow and embrace. And the three words that one stands for is overcoming hatred. It's navigating unity or love. There are all sorts of words behind that. And embracing kindness, love, and diversity. And the idea is the word, as you say, you are a microcosmos of the humankind. Yes, Jews are the people who are most diverse in the cultures they have adopted, places around the globe that are lived at. We keep on hearing about Jewish communities being found, again, more and more every year. And the idea is, Darwin said, people think that Darwin said that the strongest would survive. And that's something for some people that embrace the idea that we should fight each other and keep the separation, because if we are separated, some people will have more power to rule. They're stronger. And that's completely wrong. That's not what Darwin said. Darwin said that the one who would survive is the one who would be able to adapt to the diversity. That's evolution. That's ecology. And we as Jews prove that. And that's why we survive over all the other nations, all other cultures, because we embrace diversity and we thrive on those ideas, and nothing can hit us. I mean, people try to hit us, but that only makes us stronger. If you heard the girl who sang in the Eurovision this year, she just said that, you know, everyone was shouting, booing her and abusing her and saying horrible thing about her. And she said, that makes me stronger. I believe, I understand. I even didn't understand it until I stood on this stage and heard all this hatred thrown on me. It made me prouder of my role to bring on music, to bring on life, So when you talk about our role as Jews, we didn't choose it. We've been chosen, but many Jews don't choose this role. They hate it, and they hate themselves, and they hate those Jews who do that. And we see so many Jewish people leading those hatred calls now against Israel and Jews. So the safe hatred is from those people who don't accept this role. And we can't expect all Jews to accept the role. But we do know, as was said before, that as a percentage, many Jews do take the role. And there have been a research that many second generation from Holocaust survivor, they take occupations of social workers, social leaders, doctors, people who come over to the world to change and heal and unite and support and help. And we know that Israel has been first to send aid to various places around the world that has been in trauma. And if we would embrace that, and we don't deal too much with why are being hatred, we are being hated because we symbolize something. So we can either fight it, and we should fight, because hatred is thriving on lack of knowledge and fear. So we should bring out knowledge, information, fighting for the truth, for the facts. Yeah, that's practical things that we can do. But more than that, we should keep on to our role for unity, and we should not be there alone. And I believe we're talking about unity, embracing unity, yes, but not just the Jews to unite in themselves. Jews should unite to those people around, all human around the world from all cultures, that's saying the same thing. They took the role of Jews, but it's not the role of Jews, it's the role of those leaders who would lead humankind to unity. And Jeffrey knows I just sent him, I'm going to send some names, but for me, there are two things that make me more, I would say, enthusiastic, not just for our role as Jews, is the people who helped us through horrible times, and the people who stand up now saying, this is all wrong. This is wrong, not Christianity and not Islam and not Judaism are talking about hatred and fight and holy fights. No. And there are people from all those religions who do believe that we are not the same, we should fight each other. But there are people from all those religions and others that believe we should unite. We should look for those people and unite with them. So if we're looking for practical steps, yeah, we should look for those people that, because of the hatred is so loud, we suddenly hear those people, brave people, who stand up and say, this is not Islam, this is not Christianity, this is not Judaism to fight, and we should connect to those people. And I believe the world is changing. I believe many young people understand that. And if they would look up to us, the elderly people who lead those words and unite together with all religions, they would follow, because they do understand that something is wrong. And I believe many young people follow what's happening now because they just don't know enough. And once they know the facts, who is Hamas and what's actually going on, they're playing with they do want unity, they don't want war. So they think they fight Israel, but Israel is not the reason for the war. They're reacting to it. Once the facts would be right, then I think more people would unite with our ideas.
Okay, before Brenda, before Brenda, I know you, it's okay. Before Brenda asks her question, and also Laser has something important, I think, that he wanted to make a comment. I do want to hear Seth or Leo or both of your reaction or response just briefly to what Yifat just said to us.
Well, Yifat said a lot of things, so I won't be able to respond to all of the things that she said. I think if you guys are all talking about more practical things, there's nothing more practical than trying to tell people. Why am I hearing myself? Oh, sorry, it was Donald was unmuted. There's nothing more practical than trying to find those who are willing to listen and tell them about our role in humanity. I think this has to happen first. The fact that you can find those people in other nations and religions is a given, because there are 10 lost Jewish tribes. You find them anywhere. That was the whole point of the exile, for Jews to intermix with everyone, so then we can sort of pull everyone up when the time is right, when the human ego has peaked, has ripened, which is where we are in the process. But I would be careful not to spread myself too thin. I think rekindling this, let's call it national love that Jews used to have or display during times of trouble. If we can rekindle that among all Jews, there aren't that many, 50 million. Forget about the 2.2 billion Christians and 2.4 billion Muslims, whatever. Forget about those. Start with that group of Jews. You don't need more than that. Seth said the brain and the heart. Even in the brain, there's only a tiny microchip that controls the whole operation. You don't need a whole lot for the whole body to turn around and walk a different direction. So I urge you not to get distracted by too many actions that lose their quality. We need to rekindle that national love among Jews. That's what's missing, and also to understand that there's a reason for it. And unlike Darwin, which you mentioned, there's a purpose to it. Darwin did not see a purpose. Scientists don't see a purpose. They see conditions, and they say, given these conditions and these laws, where will the system go to? And Jews, we already were at the end of the process. During the time between the temples, we reached that level of, or even Mount Sinai, we became as one man in one heart. That's not a turn of phrase. This is a higher state of existence, of consciousness, if you will. We were there. We fell from there, and we kept falling up until recently. And so we were already there, and now we're trying to retrace our steps toward that goal. That's opposite to any science that there is. So that's the beauty and also the challenge that we're facing.
Beautiful. Brenda.
Just unmute.
Nope, nobody can hear you.
Maybe it's in your headset, Brenda. There's like a mute button on the headset. Maybe Laser, in the meantime, can make the... Where is he? Go, Laser.
Hey, Leo. I can add one comment.
Yeah, before Laser says anything, just so you guys know,
Yes.
full disclosure, Laser is not like some random guy. Laser runs our whole Twitter X operation, has been with the Jew Function from day one almost. So, we owe so much of what little we're able to do to his work.
I'm so happy to be included here. I wanted to comment on one of the amazing features of this anti-Semitism phenomenon, which was just highlighted, a very paradoxical element on top of everything else, which is that at the front of a lot of these anti-Israel movements, you're going to find Jews. And that was one of the things that was called out there. And it's a very unique aspect of this hatred on top of everything else. And I just wanted to highlight that point you thought that you called out, because it adds a whole other element to this issue that makes it so complicated. And I think it's basically a whole other project to unpack that. But I'm glad that you highlighted it, because it really illustrates just how unique that this phenomenon is. And thank you for raising it. And thank you.
We're actually going to start a short series on that topic. There is a book on that topic, and we're going to sort of unpack it in an upcoming series. I keep promising it, Seth, we'll have to do it.
Can you hear me now, Leo?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just add that also in the chat, Laser said anti-Semitism is like, okay, Laser, can you read it? I have lost the chat.
Anti-Semitism is like a purposeful. Oh, I lost it too now.
Laser, can you make your comment?
Anti-Semitism is like purposeful pressure from nature. Nice explanation. I was summarizing how Leo explained that. So that was my one sentence summary. Nice job.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. The initial question I had in the chat was, how should we pray then? And Gabby answered it in the chat. She said, ceaselessly. And that was a great question. But I originally had, at least I originally thought more along the lines is based on everything you've said today, which was a lot, but it was very interesting. I was thinking more along the lines of a prayer more along the lines of what should we ask for to do what you've said, to be this light unto the nations, for Israel to become this and open it up for all of humanity. What would that prayer look like?
Well, of course, all of these things are contained in the prayer book, so you could open the prayer book, but really, what is a prayer? A prayer is the desire of your heart, Brenda. So this, I think this erupts from your heart when you need it. And there's a phenomenon in sports and in other things where you can load up a team with a lot of great players, but if there's no chemistry between them, so they're not successful. There has to also be this chemistry thing, meaning that, Brenda, what you're going to develop in your prayer as you develop this is going to be unique. This is like a unique piece. So either I would recommend opening the prayer book and reading what's in there, which it covers all these things you discussed, or probably writing or just speaking out loud what this desire is for you, and let it change and evolve as your understanding and your emotions develop as well.
I would just add to it, since you brought it up, and again, we can maybe do a special session just on the method and like what is prayer. There's a lot of misconception about that as well, but I think everyone should really scrutinize, and you can do it together as well. Like, what do you really want? Oh, I just don't want to feel any more pain. Fine. But the pain, the one you're praying to gave you that pain. So what are you saying? It was given by this force. You're feeling it for a reason. So asking to take that kind of defies the purpose. I gave it to you. So why that's not the right question. So we need to scrutinize what we really want. Do we really feel like we lack this connection, that the connection is the remedy for everything? Do we really feel it? Did we make enough efforts in care and love and unity toward each other, our circles around us, that we discover that we can't do it on our own and then we need help from above? That would be a good prayer if you come to that.
Thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, we have just 2 more people, and then I think
Yeah.
we are needing to start to wrap it up. Okay.
All right. When I was a boy, I remember people using the term chosen people a lot, and I heard it today as well. I asked my rabbi, I said, what exactly does it mean? And his explanation was that non-Jews are required to obey 10 commandments, while Jews were chosen through a covenant with Abraham to obey, and I believe it was 613 commandments. Now, is that the correct explanation? And the reason I ask that is because I'm not sure most Jews are even aware of what chosen people means. And that creates an elitist concept which has been used against us many, many times. And it sort of addresses my understanding of this whole concept, which is that we tend to think only of anti-Semitism, and yet every group that's come to the United States has been hated, has faced discrimination, okay? And my approach is not to treat anti-Semitism as something separate, but as part of this whole concept of hate that is irrational and that I call prejudice. Okay.
So let's answer this, because again, you bring a lot of things. That the hate obviously started well before the establishment of the United
You
States.
start with the chosen people. Am I wrong? Is that what it means
Yeah,
or not?
we'll get to the chosen people in a second. I just want to say that the hate started well before the establishment of the United States. So clearly it's not it. Also, most groups, I would say almost all the groups that came here and founded this country and eventually got absorbed into the society. Yeah, at first it was very separate sects almost, and each group kind of took the areas that fit its background and its skills and its and the roots it had in this country. But eventually it's all mixed out. It's no longer, oh, the cops are not all Irish anymore, right? And the barkeeps and the bakers are not all Italian, and so on and so forth. Things get
So you
right.
don't think those prejudices exist anymore?
No, it exists. No. There's definitely hate in the world. It's not exclusive to Jews. The feeling toward Jews is that Jews owe them something that they're not giving them. That's what Dr. Lightman said in the clip we saw. It's the feeling that somehow my well-being depends on you, not that you're somehow better or you're better off or you're lucky or you have money, or that I can live with. Perhaps I can work hard and make my own money. Maybe I can do other things. That's why you see this hate sort of dissipates toward other groups, because you see it's unfounded. Oh, now he's got a new
By
car.
the way, let's make it simple. Listen, it would have been better if I was born 6 feet tall, like to a real wealthy family with stunning looks, and but it's not fair. Like, it's not fair that I was born like this, right? Like, for example, so we, it's not worth it to argue about what isn't. Like, too bad I wasn't born a better football player. I always wanted to be, a basketball player. I always wanted to be a basketball player, but I'm only 5'5", 5'6", right? Never going to happen for me. So what am I fighting about this thing? It doesn't matter what anyone calls us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter how it is. You were born right-handed. I wish I was left-handed. You were born 6 feet tall. I wish I was too tall. I wish I was shorter. Too short. I wish I was taller. It doesn't matter. This is what it is. Let's just look and deal with the situation. There is a situation that this tiny, tiny group throughout all of history had wielded uncanny influence. It just is. And now here we are, right? For example, Mark, your dad gives you a factory. You inherit a factory from your father. Okay. He said, so much work. Okay. So much work. He gives you a big multi-million-dollar factory. It's so much work. Now I got to deal with the employees. This is what you got. You want the factory? You don't want the factory. And this is what he gave you, right? This is what we received. Like, we can either just run away from it, and that's the story.
Well, we can't run away, sadly. So,
well, we can run away, but the problem will keep chasing us, or we try and understand the actual situation we're in. I'm never going to be a 6'5" basketball player. What can I do? Like, let's look at the situation we're in, and let's look at what and everyone wants to hate us because we're called chosen. We didn't write the book, and we didn't choose to be born, by the way. Okay. But there is the book, and we were born. So what are we going to do now? And really, it helps us a lot to stop dealing with things that are completely out of our control and just really focus on the things that are in our control.
And And the chosen part, to finish this, the answer, is the problem is that people don't continue the sentence. Chosen for what? It's not chosen. It's I think there's a mistranslation, because in Hebrew you can say am bchira, not am nivchar. There's am nivchar, chosen, right? There's also am bchira, like people of choice. And I think that's a more appropriate translation. You have to choose to be in that role because it's free choice and all of that. Well, the game is rigged, but you still have to play it and choose to play it. And so we were chosen to serve humanity, to bring humanity to a higher level of consciousness. Look at it this way. That's your role, and someone had to do it, right? As Seth said, you didn't choose to, it doesn't matter. It could have been.
Is that the correct translation?
Yes,
or
yes.
I'm going to ask you again the same question because I've never gotten a straight answer.
So yeah, that is the answer. That is the
answer is not, has nothing to do with accepting the idea that non-Jews have 10 commandments and Jews have more.
Oh, okay. So
that's what I want to know.
I'll say a word, because we don't have time to actually, we have to finish, but I'll just say a word, and you can contemplate it until next time that we meet. Hopefully we meet soon. All these things, they have sort of an external explanation, which is if you ask someone, a rabbi, they'll tell you, oh, there's 10 commandments, there's 613, do it. But there's also an internal meaning where you look at commandments as sort of corrections of your ego. Okay, so yes, you have more correction to do. You can look at it this way. That's the better way to look at it.
It's not an elitist concept. That's my point.
No, it's the reverse of an elitist concept. It's you have to
responsibility.
Yeah,
to serve all of humanity.
Yeah, your responsibility is to correct yourself first, and then the whole world will correct itself.
But most people don't know that.
Okay, so
they think that what they make, and I know you say that you don't have to care what other people think, but in order to understand what's happening, you do have to understand the source of these different things. And I've heard of many, many times this concept of chosen people, and people don't know what that means.
Agreed. We don't know what it means because we're afraid to admit what it means. That's what it is. Okay, so now
because I think many Jews don't know what it means,
of course,
and they themselves, in a sense, perpetuate the idea. I've heard today a lot of things that were very, very interesting. One of the most interesting things to me is it was brought up that Jews have been a light to nations and we have Nobel Prizes. Those are all facts and true. But it's still almost like an elitist idea. And what I'm saying is that if we give other people the idea that we are elitists, then of course they're going to hate us.
Of course. If you serve them, and that's really what it comes down to. We have to, this is all like your family, and now you have to take care of the family as a parent. Your parents, you don't think of your parents as, oh, elitists. Why do they get to sleep in the big bed, right? It's like, why do they have a car? It's no, they use those things to serve the family. That's how we need to look at things. And it's actually such a simple concept, but it's something that I don't like it because it's work. Seth said it's a factory. You got to work. You got to do all those things. This is the crux of the matter, because the correction is a correction of the desire, and it goes into the depth of your very being. But we'll touch on it maybe next time. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about these structures. No problem.
Very much.
You're very welcome.
Donald, I think, is going to be the last one. What, Jeffrey?
I think we need to wrap this.
Yeah.
Okay. Can Donald make his
Donald,
question or comment?
if you can make it short.
Okay, if I can, I want to go back to this chosen people thing, because I look at the Midrash and I look at different aspects of it. I'm a counter missionary. We chose to follow when no one else would. Even the angels didn't want us given the laws. Okay? Hashem gave us those laws because we were the only ones who would accept the laws. Okay? That is something that I think we need to focus on. And then another comment was made about prayers. First, we look at things as Jews differently from others. One, we don't believe somebody died for sins we never even committed. So that rules out Christianity right there, that concept. Then you have the Muslim faith that believe in killing people and torturing and raping and everything in the name of Allah. Again, that's something we're not permitted to do. So that I did want to point that out, and that was what was important to me. I've enjoyed every minute, and I have learned a tremendous amount of knowledge, and a lot of things came out of this of the portion that I attended today. And I want to thank everybody for the contribution. Rio, what can I say? I'm amazed. I'm happy I joined this group. That's all I have to say.
All right, and Cheryl, let me take it from here. First of all, I thank you for your comments, all of you. The discussion has been amazing. I just want to go and let everyone know this has been recorded. It will be streaming on all of our platforms. I do want to make one follow-up comment. It's not all of Islam who wants to kill us. It is the jihadist part of Islam that is causing the problem. So I want to say that. I want to also let you, Leo, and Seth know that our community is over 20,000 strong internationally, and I would be happy to have you to be part of your amplification of your podcast, so we can go offline with that.
Can we, Jeffrey, can we just tell people where to find us and what to do, where to go? Oh, okay, amazing. So I'll just say it very quickly. So because it's recorded, I'll put this I'll put this up as well. So if you guys go to okay, there it is. So we're the Jew Function. If you guys go to the JewFunction.com is the website. It's being recreated now, but you can still find, as I mentioned, there's a sort of a learning experience. You can click a button and go there, and it'll combine the history and the science of things into one synthesis that's really painting the full story. There are links to the podcast and to also other conversations with Dr. Lightman, which kind of came after the film came out, and of course all the first 20 episodes of our podcast and that I mentioned, and all the talks. We are you can find us at the Jew Function everywhere, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, soon on TikTok, maybe also on TikTok, but I'm not sure. Soon on TikTok. And if you like to just listen, you don't have to watch us. There's definitely nothing interesting there. You could just go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or really any platform that runs podcasts, and you can find the Jew Function. And if you're interested, I'll just point a few special episodes. So episode number 77 with Professor Shai Davidai from Colombia, really good one. Episode number 73 with Brad Pomerantz of JLTV. Episode 70 with episode 70 with Rabbi Leo D. A very interesting person from Israel. He had a tragic story, but he's an amazing force. And then also from our live section, episode 78 with Rawan Osman, a Muslim who's converted to Judaism, a fascinating story. And number 74 with Reverend Haley Ace from the UK. Just to name a few. Again, they're all great, but if I had to pick a few to kind of start us off, this would be it. And we would really appreciate it if you guys go in and at least give us a like on the appropriate platforms, give us a review on the podcast section of Spotify and all that. Reviews go a long way. Put a star, say a few words. It really helps to spread the word. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Jeffrey, and everyone.
Seth, would you like to add anything to what Leo said?
No, Leo's the pro at all of that. I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity. You're asking practically, what do we do? This is it. We're trying to spread this. We're trying to talk. We're trying to make the circle bigger. So we very much appreciate Jeffrey and Yifat and Cheryl, the opportunity to be here. And thank you all. And good luck to us all. God help us.
I just have to thank them. I have to thank Seth and Leo. Thank you so much. I know it was a little, I know how busy you guys are. I know what's coming up for you. And I'm so glad you fit us in. And thank you so much. It was just amazing.
And thank you. And I'm going to share my screen and conclude. Please hang with us. You'll see some lovely music to the end of the program.
Thank you.
Jeffery Giesener. I hope you appreciated our program, and I want to thank again Sheryl K, Yifat Cohen-Mayer, Leo Spiegler, and Seth Breitman. I want to let you know that over the summer, starting in June through August, we're going to be converting our programming to all on demand, and you'll receive notifications weekly of our current on-demand programming. I want to end this program with a beautiful music from Ozzy Schwartz, cantor of Park Avenue Synagogue. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you throughout the summer on demand. Bye now.
רגעים שמחים למזכרת, פעם אנשים עוד כתבו לך כאן שירים על מחברת, זוכרת, היפהפייה הנרדמת, עד מתי תהי מדממת, ברחובות כולם אין חלון ואין סולם, אין גם דלת או שלט, אז שר לך שיר ישן, שיר ישן, שיר ישן, נשאר לך נאמן, נאמן, לעולם, לעולם. הנביאים חזרו לך אחרת, שהוא נרדם במשמרת, איפה החלום? אין אמת ואין שלום, אין גם צדק, רק צדק. אז שר לך שיר ישן, שיר ישן, שיר ישן, נשאר לך נאמן, נאמן, לעולם, לעולם, לעולם לא נשבר, בשלום ובצר, במתוק ובמר, רק איתך אני שר, רק איתך אני שר. את היחידה המיוחדת, לעולם תהיי לי מולדת, גם על סף תהום, גם בתוך הגיהינום, את גן עדן, גן עדן.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll see you on demand throughout the summer. Love you all.
And hello again.
And
This is
hugs.